Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the Tuesday Night Noir stream. This time we have the at least noir influenced Notorious by the great Hitchcock, starring Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman. And we have our wonderful panel here with us to comment. With me, as always, is my trusty TA, Big Al. Say good evening, Al.
Good evening.
the Klingon cleric himself, Mr. Troy Pacelli.
Hey there.
We have the lovely and talented sound engraver.
Hello, guys.
And presiding over us all with her wisdom and grace, Mrs. Netter from Netter's Network.
And she
Or not.
Probably, yeah.
These people with problems with their mic. Figure this stuff out before you get on. I just don't understand it.
Oh, really?
It's
Actually,
too late. I already said it.
Worse than Fan Man today.
Oh yeah, I'm a little scattered. I'm a little late.
A little late, a little bit technically challenged.
I also, I'm
okay,
not.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you
now.
Okay, don't know what that was. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to that.
Hello.
I was also busted by Sound Engraver for tripping on my way to the microphone, which they weren't supposed to know because there's no webcam.
Because we weren't supposed to know he was dropping acid. Wait, what?
The word
tripping. You said you were tripping. Get
the
it?
word sound is in my name. I can hear all.
Right.
That's very true.
And
That's
it was either you tripping or a car ran through your house.
So I was outside. Many of you know, you've heard me talk about. It's about time. It's been a few years now since I lost little Hermione, and it's about time for me to have another cat. Right now, I've been talking about it. I'm about ready, and just at the moment I start talking about it, this little stray starts showing up outside. The last few nights, so I've been feeding him or her. I can't tell quite yet. But it looks like a sweet little kitty. I've been feeding it and giving it water, but it won't let me, come too close yet because that's a process. It's you got to build that trust. And so I was out there playing with the kitty for a while, and then I realized, the time, and I ran back in. And I'm not the most coordinated person in the perfectest circumstances.
Yup.
Rushing past the box of stuff I've yet to organize in my office, I tripped a little bit. But I'm here and I'm okay.
Oh,
So we
good.
are
I'm glad
talking
you're okay.
about noir and these kind of classic movies, and I will say I too had a friend who was loving on a feral cat, and she ended up killing herself. Not my friend, but the cat. She ended up drowning herself in the sewer. So be careful.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
The cat committed suicide.
Yeah, the
That's
cat.
weird.
Yeah, she was sick. So I think.
Are you insinuating that my friendship is of the quality that one would prefer to drown in a sewer?
Maybe.
I guess that says a lot about my other friend.
Wow.
I am very happy that you have a new possible little furry friend in your life.
Just building trust. It's
Yes.
a delicate process.
Well, I
This
hope that this
Cat may have chosen you. Hermione herself may have whispered angel kitten whispers in its ear.
Did you just say something delightfully charming and sensitive about my lost cat Hermione, Al? That is wow.
I tried.
I agree with everything Al said, and I just hope that this new fur friend of yours isn't too upset that you decided to spend the evening with us instead of with him or her.
Well, he or she doesn't really seem to like me being around too much at the moment.
Oh,
but
so maybe it's all for the best then.
I think
an
it's a
acquired
they.
taste.
It's a they them, right?
It's a they them. So yeah.
It's
But for those-
Schrodinger's gender is what it is.
Schrodinger's.
It's both male and female until you know otherwise.
For those who would like to watch along with us, Notorious, I've paused right on the black screen just before the RKO logo, the old classic RKO. So the MGM logo showed on my DVD copy, and then I've got it paused on the black screen right before the RKO because I figured that'd be one logo that's on everybody's copy. Is that true? Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, I had the MGM too, so.
Okay.
So did you say right before the MGM logo?
No,
Yeah,
right
The
before.
after MGM, before our RKO.
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
10 seconds for us, Troy.
Yep.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm at 10. Yeah.
Daniel Heron for $5 says, this stray dog came up to me last week and is already a full-fledged pack member. Dogs so much better than cats. I wouldn't say they're better.
That
Dogs
is
are
true. That is true, Daniel.
No,
I
I tend to agree. The problem is that when you are planning to be working and out of the house all the time, dogs do require more attention. So
I will say, can I ask Prof an honest question?
Yeah, you joined
No,
the stream with both boxing
only-
gloves on, so I
only
suppose so.
dishonest questions.
Are you a one cat person or a multi-cat person?
A one cat person.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Give-
sensible.
Yeah.
Give him time. Give him time.
Yeah.
No. Just a one cat. I don't need like a whole pride of them peeing around my house or anything.
Right.
Yeah. No. So, 10 seconds for the Criterion DVD. That's actually the DVD I have too, Agent Boomer. Thanks for dropping that knowledge in there. 10 seconds for that too. That must be the copy they ripped for you pirates.
You would just assume that we're being pirates.
Oh, listen,
Well, I
Phil
will
in
say-
demo- Sorry,
I
Phil in
will
the demo said that he has a tarantula that helped him get over his fear of I can't talk.
Arachnophobia.
Yeah, that. The word
Did
I
you know
can't
that
say.
tarantulas are not an arachnid?
Really?
They're not. They're mammals.
Tarantulas are mammals? Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're mammals.
I just think they're furry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that? I'm gonna have to.
You know what? I watched Jeff Corwin. Dang it!
I don't even know who that is.
When I was a kid.
He's the gay Steve Irwin,
Okay.
Was he? Okay, never mind.
I think. Right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I was innocent when I was a kid.
Well, wait a minute. When you say was, is he no longer with us?
I think he's still around.
okay.
Around.
Yeah, Corwin's still around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And welcome to the chat. I see. Yeah, Matchstick was first, and I like how Matchstick was first because I had just set up the stream, and he must have seen the notification right away. So he pops in the chat, and he's like, "First," and then it says, "Message retracted." Really? What is that about? And then 2 seconds later comes, "Yo," and I'm like, I could just see Matchstick there going, "Sweet, I'm first," and he writes first. He's like, "Wait a minute, I don't care if I'm first. Hey guys, yo,
Yeah,
what's up?"
exactly. Whether or not that's what he was really thinking, it sounds good.
It does. So welcome, Mr. Matchstick. Paladin Demo popped in, giving me grief about having the audacity to put Star Wars content on my own channel. So he was second, and I believe you guys were next, right?
I was
If it was-
six.
Fifth. Okay.
I actually didn't. If I can't be first, I don't care what number I am.
Daniel Heron for $2 says, "I live with 10 dogs. No shame." I hear you.
That's what we call a pack.
I am a one pet man. I'm a monogamous pet owner. That's getting
Nice.
into the weird area though.
Yeah.
Never, that's not what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like whenever I've had a pet, it's usually been one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they start to get to be too much of a handful for me. So it's like, nope, one's enough.
I can't even commit to a beta fish.
Hey, they're a lot of work actually.
I did have
Okay.
one named Princeton.
Princeton, nice name.
Yeah, but now you have to change that because that name is offensive.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, there's talk about one not the Princeton, but a Princeton school wanting to change their name now.
wow.
Yeah.
Did you say you did have one or you have one?
I did have one, and named Princeton, and he. Well, the story is my sister saved him.
Mhm.
He was stagnant in a bowl at her job. No one cleaned his bowl,
Oh
and so
no.
she took him home to clean. And he was just dancing alive again, and he always danced to my violin playing.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh,
He let me touch him once.
There's a kid's book in there somewhere.
There is.
I'm just holding my breath. I'm afraid she's going to say something about, and then it decided it didn't want to live and killed itself.
No, his death was a very sad thing, but he died of natural causes.
Okay.
Well, nice that he had a long natural life.
Yeah.
I hope you weren't going to say he drowned himself or something. That takes some effort.
Technically, if you die because a tree falls on you, wouldn't that technically be natural causes as well? Just saying.
Yeah.
was the tree planted by an acorn that fell, or by some sort of planned out?
If you get
plot?
struck by lightning and die, that natural causes.
Unfortunately, I know too much about this from an insurance legal.
I was going to say, here comes the insurance
no.
again.
Yeah. So they have very specific regulations for what constitutes natural, because personally, I think anything that doesn't involve going back in time and killing your grandfather is pretty much natural causes. Natural death is natural. It's going to happen eventually, but they've very much outlined what constitutes an act of God, what constitutes natural causes, what constitutes an accident, because you also have to consider double indemnity trying to bring it back.
Oh,
That Charlie car was straight down the line, Troy. I don't know if we can get back from that.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Doing my best here.
How many left to stream? I was wondering.
Well, shall we go ahead and start the movie and talk about Hitchcock Notorious? Anybody need more time to queue up, or are we good to go?
I'm good.
All right. So for those watching later or who need to know how we do this for the first time, we are going to count down 3, 2, 1, play. And on the word play, that's when we hit the button. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, play.
Speaking of, people being ready for the stream and whatnot, has anyone heard from Muhammad recently? And does anyone have any contact with him? We got to let him know that we miss him.
Every now and then he'll pop up. Haven't seen him for a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Well, a couple weeks ago, I think I saw him.
Hopefully he's just been busy with personal life and,
What my button didn't register when I clicked play. What are you guys seeing on your screen?
Notorious. Claude
Rains.
Yeah, okay, good, all right. Yeah, Claude Rains, of course, the third build star, who is no hack himself, certainly.
The Invisible Man and the Phantom of the Opera.
Yup.
He plays a great role in this, too, because he's clearly the bad guy, and he does despicable things, but at the same time, you really see, you kind of feel for him, too.
I know. I know. I thought about that.
Yeah. And this, of course, came out in 1946, so this is, one of those post-war-ish films, and it starts to delve into... Oh, go ahead, Al. Did you have some trivia about this before I step on it?
Well, no, I was just saying, the great Edith Head, providing all the great gowns that Ingrid wears.
Yeah, and she was the inspiration for Edna Mode in The Incredibles.
Oh, that's right.
Look at all these potential lightsabers.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. That's exactly what those are, is lightsabers.
So the first thing about this film is look at all of the men. And as I said, we're going to look at this, we can talk about a bunch of things from it, but we're going to look at it from a sort of a way of looking at the Jungian anima. And here we have this framed picture of the court, this, and I'm going to use the word patriarchal. I don't mean it like crazy feminists mean it today. I mean it just in terms of this fatherly institution. We see a lot of that in the film, and Ingrid Bergman's character, Alicia, is kind of under these things. So the anima would be the woman's projection of a male, which is certainly inspired or influenced quite a bit by the father figure in the life and whatnot. And we'll see how that develops and plays out. But we see that immediately setting that structure up.
Wanted to talk about just the music a little bit as well. Now I know this is based, we saw the skylines of the supposed Miami, but it has kind of that New York City type feel. The music is very much like an overture of a musical, an introduction to a musical with these sweeping melodies and all that. And there is a melodic line that always comes back.
And can we take a moment and just realize just how beautiful Ingrid Bergman was?
Mm-hmm.
How did I know he was going to say that?
That is the overture. I didn't even think of that, but as soon as you said overtures in a musical, it did kind of click. You're right I hear tones of all the different little, or little hints of it in that opening. That's absolutely right.
God, what terrible dancers, God.
Well, look at that look on her face. I don't want to be doing this. I have a headache.
Now we went from the frame structure of the court to the frame structure of her father's house. Her father's just been convicted for a German spy, and she's still in his house here. Now, Cary Grant's introduction is just the back of his head. look at her, the way this is framed. We've got Cary Grant, who we don't see, but she sees him, and he's being very quiet and mysterious. And she's clearly trying to find out, who are you, what's your deal, stuff. You've got this young kiddie kind of man behind her, completely irrelevant to the women around him. Then you've got this man who's so old, he's just sort of the grandfatherly. And then in the middle, in between them, and sort of age-wise, you've got this Cary Grant. And again, it's I'm not trying to be Oedipal or reverse Oedipal or anything about it, but it's just that sort of anima, the not the father figure, but the because we're going to see Cary Grant, even as a love interest, acts somewhat fatherly, and that enamors her even more.
And you could and the cool thing with Cary Grant, the back of his head, you just know it's him.
100% him.
Kind of see that, yeah.
Yeah.
Shape of his jaw, his ear, definitely his hair.
A chiseled man. I can say that as a confident.
And it literally takes all this time before we see his face.
Mm-hmm.
As a confident man who maybe changed his shirt from pink to black.
Come on, man. You know how this crowd treats me. You're going to post a meme of me in a pink tank top, really?
I didn't choose the color originally, man. That's the way it came.
Was that a Hennessy he was pouring? Never mind.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, it's not important.
But as soon as we do see his face, he's got this little bit of judgmental look at all of the booze that's being consumed.
Yet he's preparing to pour a glass.
Mm-hmm.
I will say.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say the amount of silence in this film, just for these kinds of exchanges. Yeah,
the silence, but they're pregnant silences with the tension between the two, right?
Right. Yeah. I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even when they're having conversations, it's usually about something completely different, and the subtext between them is all about their relationship or their feelings for each other. When they could be talking about something innocuous, like lining up a maid for her room or something later. On the wall behind her, even, and this is the fatherly home, you have those lights that almost look like crosses in a church or something. Mm-hmm. Even the little curio cabinet we saw a second ago, the ceilings are vaulted for a little beach bungalow, which is kind of weird. It's got that sort of feel to it.
Okay, and can I just say she's got some abs there? I mean, wow.
Well, this is what I chose for my thumbnail too. I love this scene. So it's very key. She's wearing something that when we first saw her in it, it was a split, but she had it kind of pulled down. Now that she's gotten far drunk, now she's clearly trying to seduce him still. She just said she'd wear him as a coat if she was cold. And I love this right here. He looks down, and instead of ogling her midriff, he's like, "Young lady, you'll catch cold," and ties a scarf around it. Right?
But that 2-pack, that's just wow.
Oh yeah. I'm not diminishing her healthy form in any way, but
and David O. Selznick, when they were
she drives like me in LA Noire. Actually, she drives better than me in LA Noire.
A producer wanted Vivian Leigh for the role.
I could have seen that, sure.
Yeah, Hitchcock was kind of enamored with Ingrid Bergman for a time, and he kept wanting to cast her in roles of loose women, which is basically what she is in this one, the high society.
Yeah, well, she's pretty loose right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in one of the original story concepts, she was actually a sex worker.
Yeah, prostitute. Yeah.
Yeah.
The censors didn't like that. Hitchcock always plays fast and loose with censors, though. There's a wonderful scene later we'll talk about with that. He always finds ways to get around them. Not necessarily for what they wouldn't let him do, but he's like, "We won't do that. I'm going to do this instead," or something. Yeah.
And oftentimes it's worse.
Well, I mean, in this, it actually makes for a wonderful scene. Later on, one of the rules was you couldn't have a couple kissing for more than 30 seconds because then it became lewd. Is the idea. So instead of having them consecutively kiss, he has them we have a 2 minute and 40 some second close up of them just their heads together kissing off and on as they talk and move about the room. And it's a cool scene for other reasons too, though, but that was kind of the impetus of it. So the authority showing up, not very happy with that, and still kind of enamored with this guy until she finds out here who he really is. And she's got this sort of toughness to her. We'll find out later in a very key moment, about their relationship too, that she's it's kind of a front, there's a deeper, pure heart beneath this sort of facade.
Pretty odd. No other cars on the road.
Yeah.
I'm imagining this be like 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah. Yeah. You see her drunk reasoning, slowly coming about. And his name, Devlin. This is an interesting name. You can say he's devilish. Well, he's not really devilish, like bad devilish, but I think it's I would argue that it links to like inner demons, psychological. And again, that plays into the anima. But look how fatherly he is, like young lady, to the point where he eventually has to get rough with her, like chop her hand, and he cold cocks her eventually, just let her drive him home or her home. In a very different role for Cary Grant too. He'd always been the charming, silver-tongued, romantic lead, which he's great at, but this is kind of stretching his wings.
It's just like, and the thing is, they hide it, so you don't actually see it. I mean, he did it, but he there's plausible deniability on
censor-wise. Yeah.
Did he strike her, or did he give her a sleeper?
Like a chop or something. Yeah, you don't really know. Okay. You don't know. I mean, it could have been, Now, one thing Hitchcock does. Go ahead, Al.
I just said it looked like he did like a little straight forearm kind of deal, like a whoop.
One thing Hitchcock does a lot in his films, and he almost started it with this. He dabbled in it a little bit before this. Was he'll switch from subjective to objective points of views. So we see her head is to the side, hair all in her eyes. And then we'll see her perspective of him standing in the door, and we'll go back and forth from that. And that's kind of a way of using the camera as your medium for storytelling to really identify the audience with her as the lead. Her journey is what we're going through here. Primarily, we get some of a little bit of what amounts to Devlin's interiority, but
and that rotation of the camera, she's all messed up and woozy.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's looking at him upside down.
But also, like, he doesn't fit any of her perceived molds, right?
Right.
He's the law of some sort. I don't think she knows he's FBI quite yet. But she just wants to think of him as just a cop, but he's also caring for her in some way, like a little bit more. He's not cold and authoritative like they've been in the past. So. And you see the hairpiece, like her facade is down at this point, with the hairpiece, and we're going to see her.
Yet another hairpiece.
Well,
Sorry, Sean Engraver.
This one was hard for her to miss.
So he's saying, we've got a job for you, and she's protesting. Why would I even ever, do anything for you people? Blah blah blah. And this is the front. Now he's going to go and play a record here in a second because her apartment's been bugged. And suddenly the Alicia you hear on the record is a good, pure, patriotic person who refuses the missions that her father wanted to put her under and stuff like that. She said she loves the country. You find out her mother was American. So you find out this other layer to her other than the facade she's put up. And it's interesting as the record plays. I'm saying it now so we can watch the camera work and really see how she's literally visually perceived or shown differently once that side of her is shown. It's interesting. See those vaulted ceilings and everything. And this was, as you pointed out, I didn't even connect the dots, Sound Engraver, but you pointed out this was the same conductor as Murder My Sweet, right?
Yeah,
composer.
Roy Webb. Yeah.
I love those full-size phonographs.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that he's playing a record as opposed to like a tape or anything, because
now he's got this sort of like keen insight into her. And now all of a sudden in the frame, now it's framed in her bedroom. It's no more framed in her father's home out front or the courthouse. And now you've got some real vulnerability to her. Her hair's down, a little bit more natural.
Eyes glistening.
Yeah, eyes glistening.
It's a very passionate presence about her. I was getting a little choked up too, especially when I was seeing her cry a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's her performance too. That's her ability as an actress. She can pull you in. She is an amazing actress. She really is.
One of the all-time greats.
Yeah. And you see the way he looks at her differently once that's being played too. He's not the judgmental. Suddenly there's like a touch of admiration even. Or there's something he sees that's not just a spoiled little girl, you know? And this is really what's going to be the key to her falling for him. Once she thinks he believes she's more than just this little bratty socialite, she becomes more. She turns that new leaf. But for him, he kind of has to see her turn that leaf over before he gives her more and says, yes, I believe in you. And that's the great tragedy of their relationship for a while in this movie. Age of Boomer for... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was Age of Boomer for $5 says Fan Man was saying earlier today that Gen X may be the last generation that can appreciate black and white film. Maybe. I'm a Zennial, I think is what they're called technically. Or you could just call me Gen X right at the end. But yeah, you're right.
I mean, I was a 90s kid growing up with black and white TV sitcoms and stuff like that. I wanted to say, though, the format of the story can, I think, work really well as an opera.
Oh, yeah.
It almost ended like an opera in a way.
You notice her realizing that she's still got the scarf tied around her midsection. She's like, what's going on?
You know, the opera thing, I never put that together, but you're right. It is such a heavily emotional film to the point sometimes where it's uncomfortable. And honestly, it's not a movie I can just watch all the time over and over, because some of the emotional scenes are so, in the camera work, it loves to be tied up into those extreme close-ups. You are uncomfortable sharing these moments with the characters sometimes, especially as it gets a little later. But yeah, I never thought about that. That would be perfect for an opera.
She's her character, of course, she's deeper, but her character is like the character of La Traviata. Violetta, I think is her name, where she's on the outward, she's this kind of flaky socialite, this kind of social appearance, but she really does want a deep commitment, a deep relationship, and she does fall for this very good man, but ultimately perishes.
I'm not familiar with that story, but it matches perfectly, especially with what's going on with her right here. He said, I think you can do this great thing for the country. And suddenly look how much different she's acting. She's not the bratty, she's being a good girl. She's sober, her hair's down naturally and stuff like that. Now, in his perspective, we first see him crack a little bit when it comes to her in just a second. And I want to explain it again before we see it so we can just kind of appreciate it when we see it. As they start to get into Rio, she looks out one window to see the big statue, the famous statue of Jesus there. And then she looks out another window. And as she turns to look out the other window, you see this quick little look on his face. He turns back and he's taken by surprise at her profile. And you see his eyes get really wide for a second. And it's just like suddenly he, quote unquote, sees her. And that's the beginning of it for him, I would argue. But it's a really cool little subtle thing. But that's Cary Grant's acting too. I just wanted to call attention to when we see it here.
I did like that one. I caught it before the scene changed. Yeah.
A little shout out to Christ the Redeemer out the window there, Corcovado. And isn't that just the key to not only a romantic relationship, but any lasting relationship,
Mhm.
is being able to see yourself through the other person's eyes and
Mhm.
liking what you see.
Mhm.
You know, it's like a positive mirror,
Mhm.
or at least that's what you hope for. That's what you look for.
And it's also that thing about, on the one hand, when you're hooked by an anima or animus, and it doesn't have to end badly as long as it progresses in a healthy manner. But, it can be like right away at first sight, kind of like it was for her and him. But for him too, it can also be like somebody you sort of know, and then suddenly you just have that moment where it's like you've seen them for the first time, and whatever it is, that glance at the profile or something like that on the plane or whatever. And then it's like, whoa,
And
this
you
person's
referenced
amazing.
and you referenced earlier the Oedipus, or you alluded to the Electra complex, and that's really the bottom line of that. I mean, it's your mother and father who always have this rosy outlook on you. And that whole, you have to say that you're my mother, you're my father, whatever, right? And but you drink that in, right? Because you want to believe that that positive impression they have of you is the truth, and that's what you try to live up to. And when you're always worried about disappointing your parents, that's why, because you want to live up to that expectation they have of you, because that's the better person you want to be. That's exactly what you look for in a partner.
And of course, it gets all kinds of twisted when you have a father like hers who didn't give her the positive reinforcement.
Exactly. And that's why she sees herself in a much more, and allows herself to be what she is until she's given a better, something to hope for, to work towards.
That's a good point.
Now he's kind of cold to her, and all of a sudden she's like, fine, I'll be the person you think I am then, and make it a double. I'll drink more, or whatever. We get a little bit of that interplay back and forth now. He's trying to resist, right? And part of that, I mean, it's not as specifically drawn out as it was, say, in the Maltese Falcon, but I think there's a little bit of that, I'm not going to be duped by a woman, in terms of I seen what kind of person she is. Just because she bats those eyes, or I see her say she's changed over a new leaf, I'm not going to just be another one of her markups, or something like that. So he's trying to resist. And I love this mountaintop scene. Mountaintops are symbolic, when he just can't resist anymore, and he just grabs. It's so perfect. It's good stuff.
And this is I just want to say that this is the the theme entering again. If you can hear the higher strings enter.
And is that their love theme, or just sort of a theme of the?
I think it's more of that. Yeah, that relationship. I'll have to look for it. I actually don't analyze when I watch the film for the first time.
Okay, yeah, sure, obviously, yeah.
Listen for that.
Yeah, sure.
But what you're hitting on that's maturity, isn't it? He has a maturity to know better, to restrain himself, to expect more of himself and expect more of her. She's still very immature, like a petulant child. Fine, and then taking the double, right?
Yeah.
But he's still human. So he's got his limits too.
And she's trying too. I mean, she's maturing in her way too. Look at, as the camera slowly pans back through this scene, by the end of it, we're going to see this room framed the exact same way the court was framed at first, or the opening of her father's house was, that establishing shot. Again, just the sort of patriarchal structure, the fatherly structure, I should say. That patriarchal has negative connotations today. And I mean negative with the way.
Excuse me for my voice. We have the statues, the head statues on either side.
And the statue out in the yard, again, what's outside the window,
right?
Always a feature of Hitchcock.
You guys are good. I didn't even pick up statues. I was just talking about good.
Yeah, our professor's been doing a good job.
Of our mind right now.
What is the forefront?
Statues.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I've been a little bit there, Troy.
Sorry, Troy, what were you saying?
I was just pointing out that our professor's had a good influence on us. He's been doing his job.
Yeah.
Oh, that view.
Yeah.
The fake view?
Well,
that view from the balcony where the Wi-Fi still reaches, that's a beautiful view.
Oh, gosh. I was going to comment on the Art Deco lines of the architecture, but yeah, okay.
out there sitting in the dirt and the water with the crazy people, not so much. But up there on the balcony, room service, Wi-Fi.
I'm sure Miami back then is not Miami today.
Well, that's Rio de Janeiro at this point, right?
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking Miami. You're
But yeah,
right.
same principle though.
Exactly.
Now, this is that scene I was talking about where it starts. They're not going to kiss for longer than 30 seconds. But what the scene adds to the movie, though, and because of this, is that there's just you see the incredible intimacy, and again, the subtext. They're not doing anything crude or anything like that, but you just see the way they feel about each other, the closeness, and you also see he's not, even though he's showing her how he feels at this point. He's also not 100% broken down until the end of the movie. Yeah. For her, but and he's kind of maneuvering and walking towards the door but he's also making plans with her at the same time. Apparently, this was on a list. Maybe you came across this, Al, if you did your trivia stuff. It was on a list. I forget which one of like the greatest kisses in films or whatever. Classic movies, anyway.
I didn't see anything about a list, but they did. I did see like the whole dancing around the Hays Code.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I have to say, because
a little sidestep. Now they see me. Now they don't have come.
I have to say, I don't care to see kissing, but these two actors pull it off very well. I'm totally fine with.
Oh, that's right. That's mouth noises for you, isn't it?
No, it's just emotion.
Yeah.
They do it very well. Where it's like, actually, okay, it's not bad. It's not bad.
They're not sloppy about it. They're elegant.
Right. Exactly. Which is a level of maturity as well.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. Didn't realize this until seeing this the second time. But when they're coming back inside from the balcony, she's leaning affectionately on him. Mm-hmm. And you do see that parallel at the last sequence.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good call. Because this was the last time that they were, willingly in a relationship with each other. He wasn't pulling back. This is the last time they're together like this before then. And then as soon as they are again, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Good call.
I love that the door closes. She puts her head against the door jamb and she's just a little bit breathless.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is being a woman.
Now, I love the champagne bottle here. All right, so he said he'd bring the champagne, and it's we're going to see champagne show up again, symbolically in the story, and he carries the champagne with him. So the champagne is kind of, you could say, his love for her or what he loves about her. We're going to see it symbolize, the love between the other two characters or the pseudo love or whatever a little bit later. But here is where he leaves it, because now his initial reaction when he finds out that they want her to romance this German operative in South America there, they're basically wanting to, quote unquote, prostitute her out, for a government, mission or whatever. And, and he takes all kinds of exception to that, obviously, because he feels for her. But suddenly he doesn't argue. He doesn't put his job on the line over it. And we can speculate as to why, I would say, but it's that male pride of, I can't. What if she truly hasn't changed? Wouldn't I look the big dope, in the end and have my heart broken to boot or something? I don't know. We can kind of speculate, but we see that there.
That's another parallel with the South American German operative.
And I don't know. I guess maybe I never thought enough about it, but I always assumed it was because, did that have a wax seal on it? Okay, I'm sorry. Or is it some kind
I
of
worked in a bottling company for a time, and I can tell you, here's the ins and outs of that.
No, I'm sorry. I just have a short attention span. I always assumed that he just was afraid of appearing unprofessional by getting
that poor chicken.
Yeah, she's butchering.
I'm sure it's not going to complain, Al. But getting involved with the girl and everything just might not look too good from a professional standpoint.
I didn't notice that lighthouse in the background.
Oh yeah,
neither did I. Yeah,
lighthouses are always important when they're shown.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's that light in the distance. Now he's of course Mr. Cold now, and he can't. And he says a line here at some point where he says, after all this, he's like, had a champagne bottle with me. I must have left it somewhere. And again, the champagne is the surrender to the romance. And as Soundgrave pointed out, that's exactly a parallel with the German operative. We'll see those parallels with that champagne when that shows up again too, in a different way.
This is tip of the hat to Hitchcock and his amazing storytelling. I felt her pressure when she used to do. I could feel her pain and the reserve.
And look at the way you see the pain on her face right there too when he hasn't even told her yet and he's being cold to her again. It's like, once you let somebody in, you give them the ability to hurt you like you wouldn't believe. And yet the pressure for her, it's part of it is just objectively doing this really uncomfortable thing the government wants her to do. But the other part is, why won't you stand up for me and tell me I shouldn't do it? Why won't you? That's from her perspective. And again, it's because she needs to know that he believes in her to change and be the person she wants to be. And paradoxically, he needs to see her change before he can believe in her. That's the great divide between them for so long in the movie. And it's the tragedy of it. And these scenes, like, there's no music whatsoever. That is like, it's all the more awkward for it, but it's like it's supposed to be.
And I love that because, again, when we have music playing, this is kind of the disadvantage, if you will, of having music in the background, is that music is outside the story. So when the music is absent, it kind of feels like you're watching them, like as if you're in the room or in the environment with them, taking this
more
in.
personal.
Yeah.
Almost voyeuristic.
And that's one of Hitchcock's themes, voyeurism. You're right. That's a good way of putting it. It's like music contextualizes it for you and gives you one emotional removal away or something somehow. Maybe.
I will say that in a scene where it's really tense, when it's silent, I'm a lot more tense. When the music comes in, I'll automatically relax.
I was going to comment on
a little bit.
I was going to comment on the tension too. Music can be used to raise tension, but it tends to do so artificially. Like it's a cue. You should be feeling tense now.
Yeah.
Whereas when it is absent, the tension is natural and it's like real.
Yeah.
Mr. Matchstick, you're absolutely right. Technically, this should be CIA instead of FBI, but the CIA didn't technically get its start until 1947.
Right.
So, this was delegated to that agency eventually. But, yeah.
This is interesting. His exchange here, where he keeps saying, "I'm letting you decide. This is your call."
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a dad thing to do too.
A little bit, yeah. Show me how you've grown.
Well, and there's a maturity there too. It's, I could tell you what to do, but it's not really my place to do that. Your body, your choice, so to speak.
Yeah, but at the same time, from her perspective, all she needs is a little support, Show me that, yeah, that's the tragedy of it. You can see both sides, but that's the great tragedy of the what happens to him for a while here.
It's kind of like that tension, like, well, the first thing that came to mind was, you want the man protagonist to get the girl next door, not the devious hot lady, the girl next door. But so you're kind of rooting for that relationship to stay cemented.
Yeah, because she plays both the quote unquote femme fatale and the good girl in this. You're absolutely right. And she just walked, when she decided to do it, she walked behind a curtain there and we saw her through a veil, and so it's like she's going into that deception again. But yeah, that's a good way of putting it too, because she is both of those and we're trying to get that one of her out to the forefront.
Well, and isn't that another conflict? What does a man want? I mean, it's the old adage. They really want both. And everyone is capable of both. So coming to grips with that and being realistic about it.
I said, look at his body language there. The crossed arms, cutting himself off.
What was that sound engraver?
You and your meme. Why can't we have both?
Why can't we have both? And that's what men always want. What is it? You know, in the front room and in the bedroom. You know, if you've ever heard that saying.
I choose to ignore that saying.
You shouldn't, though.
Exactly that.
You shouldn't, though, because there is wisdom there.
I haven't heard that.
Well, I mean, I was sort of listening to you, Troy, half listening, and I was watching the scene. I can't do two things at once.
Okay.
But
now,
I knew it.
Now the camera work in a lot of these scenes, you see it a little bit right now with the horses, but you're going to see it a lot every time they do group meetings, whether it's the Germans meeting in a room or the FBI back meeting in a room. Everybody's looking in different directions, and you'll see, especially the camera will go and circle around her if she's part of it, because it's like all of these different people seeing her in different ways, and all of these different threads and espionage and subterfuge, going on, and the camera's kind of showing you all of that.
God, you could see in his eyes it's ripping him apart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
God, it's so emotive.
What was bothering me was him having a closed jacket with no tie. That's so weird.
It's the little stuff, Troy. It's the
It
little
is. I mean, do or do not. There is no midway.
So in some cases, we can't have both.
I guess. No, that's not true. If he had just undone the jacket, he would have still been elegant, but still been casual.
I don't know the rules of equestrianism at that time, though.
It wasn't well, I guess it kind of is. It's the rules of wearing a suit. When you sit down, you should unbutton your jacket. Especially if you have no tie on.
What about her headpiece being connected to her dress? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like that. Now, I wanted to talk about this character too, because we know he's a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
That I think it was with Moose, there's kind of a sympathy to him.
Yeah.
I was kind of sympathetic with it, because even though he's a dangerous man doing these dangerous operations with very dangerous men, he still has a genuine fondness for this for Alicia.
Yeah. He was jilted by her in the past, and they're playing upon that to dupe him, in this way here. But he's a fascinating character, because whereas Alicia grows beyond her father's influence on her, he can't grow beyond his mother's influence on him.
Yeah.
He needs his mommy throughout the whole movie in an unhealthy way. And that's that Hitchcock overbearing mother we'd ultimately see in Psycho. But
I'm not speaking from experience, but I don't know. As a woman, I think that would be a really hard, tall task to try to make a guy who liked you before. Like, oh, I do like you. No, not really. I know this is for my country, but
yeah,
right. Very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, yeah. And Hitchcock really wants to make you feel it. I mean, I'm not even a woman, and I can feel her discomfort. It's just really puts you in there.
I know this is neither here nor there, but he's got great hair. I always imagined I would have hair like that when I got older. It's so sad.
Is it real hair, Troy?
That is definitely real hair.
Okay, thank you. I need confirmation.
A little bit thinner because he is a little older, but clearly naturally wavy, And he's got some product in there for sure.
I think my hair would probably do that if I cut it right. I usually do the Tim Drake cut every time I go to get my hair cut, but I got that wave.
Is that what you tell the barber? I want the Tim Drake cut.
Honestly, one time I did. I even brought the comic in. I'm a grown man.
Yeah, I kind of decided to go more with the Donatello.
What were you gonna say, Al?
I just love Claude Rains. I don't know if I told you the story about when he went in to go see a showing of The Invisible Man. Did I ever tell you that?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, there was a theater that was showing The Invisible Man, and this was like later in his life, and he goes in, and people recognized who it was, and while the film was going, he was kind of telling them stories about the filming.
Oh wow!
And they said he was just like so super nice, and and I'm thinking it's like, wow, it's like one of the first DVD commentary kind of deals.
Yeah.
I would love to hear his views on that.
We'll have to do a commentary on The Invisible Man, and we can talk about Notorious.
I've read the book.
Won my bet with myself. I knew it. I did it on purpose, too, buddy. You fell right in.
Sorry, Santa Graver. Go ahead.
No, that was a momentous whole thing there. I just said I've read the book Invisible Man, but I've never seen the film.
Yeah, that joke is your yes.
yes, exactly.
Oh, come on! It's the second time I've done it. Don't even remotely liken it.
I'm warning you now before it becomes a habit.
Yeah. 2 points make a line, though.
It was on Vertigo. For those of you who weren't here last time, we honestly, now to be fair, that was like 10 minutes of talking about It's a Wonderful Life during Vertigo, and I eventually said we'll have to do that this Christmas, and yeah, we can do a rewatch of that, and we'll talk about Vertigo. So
that's funny.
I'm sure we'll talk about this movie when we see Psycho. I'm sure.
Of course, he's not on screen now, but the man who plays Prescott, Louis, I can't remember, Louis Callaghan, something like that.
The head of the FBI guy.
If you've ever seen the Julius Caesar, the one with Marlon Brando as Mark Antony, he plays Julius Caesar. And he's really good in that. Okay. I was like, I've seen that guy before, and that's where it was. I finally
have a question.
Saw it on IMDb, like, that's it.
Sorry to interrupt, but before I forget, is Joseph a good guy or a bad guy? I can't tell.
It's a good question, right? I think he's just a good servant. You don't really know how much he knows about it, the machinations or not. You don't know one way or the other. It's a good question. Yeah, it adds to the tension, though, not knowing.
I always associate those drapes, those giant drapes, in kind of the dreary room as that overbearing matron.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Who we have here, of course, as soon as she enters.
Speaking of an overbearing matron,
I love that staircase.
Look at that stare. I mean, talk about.
And it just comes right at. She comes right at you.
Talk about meeting the terrifying mother-in-law.
And the way she comes so close into camera.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, those extreme close-ups, and Hitchcock really trying to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's the framing of this close talking,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And this was her only American film.
Really? Wow.
Leopoldine Constantine, or Madame Constantine, as she was billed. And she plays Clarice's mother, and she's only like 4 years older than he is.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah.
I thought there was a real close age gap between these two characters.
Yeah. I think because he's probably playing a little younger.
Yeah.
Sure.
And her of course playing older, so it's just we kind of split the diff.
We did. I didn't want to interrupt what we were saying. It was that she went in, but we saw the front of the house. It was the columns on either side, just like the court again, just like everything else.
Yeah. It's such a strange introduction.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. And that's going to be key for at the end of the movie, because that's the last setting we'll see is leaving those columns.
Yes.
You say all these guys look like evil nuts?
Yeah.
Well,
There's a scene.
Can't do that in the time of the virus now. With
Kissing
kissing
hands.
all everybody.
There's a scene a little later. I just want to call attention to in case we were talking over it. But once went there at the horse races, and Sebastian's talking to his mother. He's like, you could smile at her now and then. She's like, and then we both be grinning at her like idiots.
Yeah.
I remember laughing out loud, even in the rewatching it for this in preparation for the stream. All right, so the champagne enters once more.
Right. Very interesting scene.
Mm-hmm.
And following this scene is even more interesting.
Yeah. And it's a good use. Hitchcock pioneered the perfect use of the MacGuffin that is a storytelling, and people try and use it today, and they just don't do it well, or they overuse it. But the MacGuffin is that thing in the story. It doesn't matter what it is. It's champagne with uranium powder in it here. It could be a magical formula. It could be gold bars. It could be whatever. It doesn't matter.
Spoilers.
It's a rewatch.
It's a rewatch, yeah. You should have seen this.
Still.
It's but it doesn't matter what it is. The important thing is what it does to the characters involved and what it does, and it moves along the relationships and whatnot.
Oh, Sir Torgay says Lewis Cowherd married to Natalie Schaefer, the millionaire's wife from Gilligan's Island. He was married to Lovey.
I love how, well, not love, but it's very intriguing how close they're sitting together, like they're huddled, even not so much.
Co-conspirators, yeah. And apparently J. Edgar Hoover was trying to put the kibosh on this film because he didn't like the way the FBI was portrayed, and they should have been more smooth. They should have been, something or another. Hitchcock was able to wiggle out from under that one, I think, though.
Wow.
Well, Hoover was a pill.
And, since I went ahead and dropped the uranium bomb there, no pun intended. Hitchcock was doing a little bit of research about it just for the sake of the movie. But this was, budding Cold War, and stuff like that. And the government actually had Hitchcock followed because he was asking questions about uranium and stuff like that for a time. And they didn't know if he was, because he himself, a Brit coming over to, not a natural born citizen as such.
So it's not just in the modern age where you got to watch your internet usage.
Exactly.
And end up on a government watch list.
I don't even want to imagine what Hitchcock's search history would have been.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Now, this poor guy, again, talking about just making you so uncomfortable and feeling for somebody. And he knows at this moment when the guy says, no, I will drive you. I mean, talk about, he knows that he's going to be killed at this point, and he's still groveling. It's so uncomfortable. It's so just,
And look at the shoulders and his arms just hanging.
Mm-hmm. Like a little boy in trouble.
In big trouble.
Yeah.
I love the compliments to the chef before I kill this guy.
Just because we're committing murder doesn't mean you need to be rude.
Exactly.
And I like the use of the horse races as a setting here, because you've got the idea of the spyglasses and everybody watching closely, and then the idea, of course, we find out later he wasn't even watching the race, but he was watching her, and it adds to the tension and the different levels here at the place, physically at the setting, and stuff. It just, Hitchcock knows how to use a setting for suspense and to heighten up the tension of the plot.
An element reused in many other films. The first one that comes to my mind is Godfather 3 at the opera.
Oh yeah. Now talk about subtext. Before there's a lot of subtext when they talk about whatever, but they're really talking about their relationship. And here, they really have to be trying to. They really have to try to pretend as though they're talking about innocuous things, but they are talking about the spy thing. And then she's trying to get at him a little bit with the emotion too,
And poor Emile. Emile never came back.
Yeah, I know. Poor Emile.
Had a little slip, and that was all it took.
Hashtag justice for Emile. Justice for the neo-Nazi who was killed. That probably didn't go over too well.
Well, in movies like this, I always wondered, you're a villain. Why aren't you carrying your own gun? You're about to be killed. Why don't you kill him first? I mean,
I feel like I know nothing
Emile
about
shot first.
Exactly. There's almost like a pact involved. It's just this group is such a tight knit group.
Mm. Well, yeah, and it makes sense because this is post-war. Nazis are bad news, and a lot of them did flee to South America, to try to find some sort of hiding or whatever. But yeah, I mean, they would have had to really go into intense hiding to, to do whatever. I don't know the specifics historically of the machinations that happened or whatever.
Well, that depends on if you are being realistic and following Occam's razor, or if you believe conspiracy theories. If you believe conspiracy theories, they were trying to go underground so they can rebuild the Third Reich, or make a Fourth Reich. But in reality, they just were trying to escape justice in as much luxury as they possibly could.
You got Devlin here being incredibly unfair. I mean, she's doing the job and he's blaming her for it. Oh yeah, I bet that was easy for you, wasn't it? And stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, come on, below the belt.
Her rage is very well executed. Yeah. Oh, and look at her eyes under, over the binoculars.
Oh yeah, the pain.
And you're wondering if he's doing it on purpose to try to distance himself from her.
Yeah, right. Like if I say it out loud, then it means maybe I'll feel it too or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, her tears and everything, and now she has to dry those tears. Here he comes, Go, I mean, just the immense amount of pressure she has to be under is insane.
Her hand just collapses on the railing, like, not now.
Now, I don't care if you are Claude Rains. You're the older, shorter man to Cary Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you feel threatened. I mean, that's
of course, he had to they had to do the height thing because she is significantly taller than he was too.
And Claude Rains, okay.
Well,
yeah.
But it depends.
Claude was not exactly a very tall man.
It depends on the character, though. If you see yourself, if you have a bit of arrogance, if you see yourself as powerful and wealthy and just full of who you are, the height thing shouldn't matter.
But if you're constantly having to grovel to mommy.
Well, and that's what I was getting at. Clearly that's not the case here.
Yeah.
Well, the Napoleon complex kind of thing.
Would you care to convince me that he means nothing to you? Yeah. And then we get the big wrinkle. And I like the fact that, again, so here everybody's kind of looking in, their bodies are faced in different directions. Of course, we see his back again because he's dealing with his own stuff there. But it's interesting when she comes in here, she breaks the rules by going to see them. But her reason is so innocent and so powerful. She's like, I needed advice, and Devlin was nowhere to be found, because he was doing his own sulky little thing,
Yeah.
Just the back of the head at you can see the tension in his shoulders, again, that great. Mm-hmm. Hitchcock once famously said, and people have made more of it than is necessarily should be made of it, but he once famously said that actors are just cattle, get whoever in the parts and you hurt them the right way or whatever, and it works out. A lot more is made of that than what he really meant, but he certainly did. He liked to work with people, talented people, as often as he could. He's worked with Cary Grant a number of times, James Stewart a number of times. He knew who he wanted. Obviously for his leading ladies, but he certainly knew to the men too. He wanted to come in and trusted to do the right role.
It's a bit of an interesting character to say, well, to ask for that to be convinced that someone loves you by saying, well, why don't you marry me to prove it?
Mm-hmm. Back to the drawing board makes an excellent point. Claude Rains as Prince John never looked short. Speaking of, from the Adventures of Robin Hood.
Oh, uh-huh.
That's true. But it all depends on how they want to portray him in the film. You can do a lot with camera angles.
Yeah.
I know you guys are talking about live action stuff, but whenever you say Prince John, I just picture the animated lion sucking his thumb and rubbing his ear.
Well, just wait. We're supposed to get a live action animated anthropomorphic.
Oh, yeah. Gross. No. That was classic and perfect as is. We don't need any more of that nonsense.
And the music was perfect. There's nothing they could do with that.
I was fine with the Glenn Close 101 Dalmatians, and that's pretty much it.
There was that middle era. There was that middle era when they did it, and it was like, okay, it's a really different take on it, But this whole idea of doing it almost shot for shot, but then changing little things because they were problematic or, whatever. It's like, oh God, stop. Just stop.
Tune in for our Disney live action remake rewatches when we'll talk about Notorious.
3. 2 in one movie.
And right here, it's cementing that they're basically selling her to this guy because you could tell she doesn't want to marry him. And they're like, yeah, go along with it. Have that nice long honeymoon. Get more information. It's like,
Yeah. She's property to them, basically. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's for the mission and all that kind of stuff, but it's a heavy thing. And look at her sigh when he leaves the room.
Yeah.
Oh, the pain on her shoulders and the face. Now we've got that I love this shot. The wicked matron, and she's holding court there, and he's just,
Yeah, the attire kind of resembles that.
Just the way her hair is done to look like a crown.
Yeah.
Oh, that, yeah. And the judgely uniform, like you're saying, yeah.
The kind of seat, the way she's sitting upright.
Mm-hmm. And I love the way we'll see her a number of times in the movie doing her needlepoint. She's clearly in charge of the things that are going on around her, to a certain degree. Not here so much, he's just, I'm going to marry no matter what. But she's needle pointing, the specific little needles, and when we see that kind of come back, we'll talk about it.
I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm. So here we have he doesn't exactly carry her across the threshold, does he? And of course, the mother has sent all the help to bed to give them the coldest welcome as possible. Now, I guess are they returning from the wedding or the honeymoon?
I think the honeymoon.
The honeymoon. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Okay. Yeah, because they went away to do the marriage. Okay, gotcha. I need to refresh my YouTube. It still says 2 people watching. I think it was from when I first started.
Mine says 4. So
I guess
maybe it's
17.
the same thing.
I think the 2 was what I was talking about.
And 13 thumbs up, but 16 watching. So if there are 3 holdouts out there, don't make Al angry. You wouldn't like him when he's angry.
No, you wouldn't.
Uh-oh, we lost Nanette. I'll make sure I add her again if she's just rebooting or something. Do you know what's going on with Nanette, Troy?
I don't. She's in another room for sound reasons.
All right. If I see her backstage again, I'll make sure I add her.
She's in another room for sound reasons. Not graver reasons, but sound reasons.
They're good sound, logical reasons. So here we have, the new Mrs. Sebastian in the home, the Mrs. Sebastian is the mother, of course, but the new Mrs. Sebastian home wanting all the doors opened to her, that's another moment there. Now see exactly how the men are seated and looking off and facing in different directions, exactly like it was in the FBI office, right? You've got that kind of and as mobile as Hitchcock is with the camera in this movie. I mean, he's perfectly willing to swing around characters and to zoom in and back and forth. He also doesn't mind giving you those static shots when he's got the blocking just the way he wants it.
Nanette saying she refreshed the wrong screen and got kicked out.
There she is.
And with a new look.
Yes, I like the new thumbnail there, Nanette. Very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I wanted to update it. I figured it'd fit better.
Now, the keys. So the keys, she's looking for the key. The keys are going to play a big part. What's the key to the mystery? What's the key to all of this? Of course, she's trying to give the key to Devlin at one point later. But the key itself is what sort of betrays her. So you can tie the key into her feelings for Devlin, which in a way is the kind of thing that that betrays the mission to a certain degree, you know. So you can tie all these little things in. What I love about Hitchcock when it comes to details, whether it's the key, the champagne bottle, he doesn't waste any detail. He'll bring it back up and use it again, and it keeps coming back. And you know, he's not. It's concise. It makes for a good integrated visual story.
The key is the key to the film. And does she have enough? I do not know.
I was looking for posters, you know, to put on the thumbnail of this stream. And all of the official posters, because Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman were such big stars at the time, you know, all of the official movie posters just had them smiling and in love and just kind of build it like it was just a romance story between the two of them or whatever, you know. I had to find like later pictures and ads for the later DVDs to really capture the espionage and the thriller aspect of it.
Yeah.
There is a spider on my wall, and it's kind of, it went behind the Incredibles poster. That is not incredible. That is
frightening.
It looks a little wicked too. It's not like one of the innocuous little spiders. It's like one that could be holding a switchblade.
The fangs aren't scary enough. If it's got a switchblade, then it's really tough.
That's not cool. Part of me wants to press the Incredibles frame against the wall, but I know later it's like I'm gonna wake up and it's gonna be on my chest. It's gonna be like, remember the Incredibles.
It's a hard frame. You can't just bat it or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's got a switchblade, snapping his fingers, going, "We are the Jets."
Yeah. Gonna mess you up. But first, let's dance.
When you're a jet, you're a...
Rest in peace, my monetization.
There is no way that any of us singing comes anywhere close enough to setting off any algorithms. The AI is like, that doesn't even sound like music.
Here, let me get my violin, and the algorithm will recognize.
There you go.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that because she knows, right?
I can only apologize to Sound Engraver because I know that as a writer, if I'm around people who are constantly engaging and presenting their poor writing to me, and then, you know, she's here and constantly presented with horrid singing.
My ears.
You guys forget I'm a violin teacher.
Children.
Sounds.
Oh yeah, you have that gut wrenching cat scratching sometimes.
Exactly.
So look at the way the camera draws, it builds up the tension.
Yeah, look at the way the camera draws right to that point.
It's the keys on the table, and then the close up on the shadow. How close could he be? And the close up on her fingers as she takes it off. It's just Hitchcock. He's called the master of suspense for a reason, you know.
Let me just say, she can take a key out of that ring so fast. I would be, if I was in her position, it'd probably be 2 minutes.
I know. You're trying to get your thumbnail in between the little things and then screaming because it hurts, and maybe that's
Put
just
that down your bra real fast.
But it's in a hand, right? Which hand is it in? Again, Hitchcock.
Nanette, I was curious, and I'm not poking fun. I actually would like to know I don't know the actress's name who plays the mother, but the way she was wearing her hair is that an extra extension, or do you think that might be her?
That spiral kind of going around her hair?
Yeah, I think that's her own hair just doing, they just curled it. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll tease the hair to make it more poofy so they can build it up a little bit more.
Okay.
I had a similar style for the Victorian.
I can't.
There's a cool story behind the key, that Utica key. Cary Grant kept it after the film. Mm-hmm. And years later, gave it to Ingrid Bergman. He's like, this key's brought me a lot of luck, and he gave it to her. And then during a tribute to Hitchcock, she gave it back to Hitchcock.
Oh, cool!
Shocked him that it still existed.
That's cool. I want to say, going back to the opera, this is a perfect cast for opera. You've got the matronly, you know, the wicked matronly woman. Mm-hmm. Of course, you've got the male love interest, the female lead, the baritone, of course, would be Sebastian, and then you have this cast. This would be kind of like a choral presentation. This is almost the format you would see with opera.
And it's this is the thing I love, kind of backtracking the stories of Hitchcock movies because of this, because he would often, like we said with Vertigo, he would take a novel which wasn't anywhere near as good, as what he would end up coming up with in the film, but he would see something in it, some little thing that he found of interest, and he would find a screenwriter who could work well with him in forming up the story, and then they just end up with something that's so much better. And quite often then the novel was usually named something different, and the author would then reissue the novel named what the film was named, just to kind of piggyback off that interest.
On it. Yeah.
Now I love how her hair is with those earrings.
Those earrings are nice, yes.
And her face. And her fan and all of it.
It's a very Spanish style.
Yeah.
And of course, there is the immortal Hitchcock himself having a little drink and sitting it down. That was his cameo.
Love his cameos.
I do like that when film directors kind of make an entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at the marble wall.
I think one of my favorite Hitchcock cameos was one of his early British films when he was on a train and this little kid was like smacking him and he's like fighting with the little kid and he's like trying to explain himself to the mother too. It was really funny.
I love this. I love the setup they have. Champagne. It must be nice and chilled. God, I could use a little glass right now.
Now, talking about you guys are talking about the mother's hair too. Later on, we'll see her with that hair down, and because of what happens in the story, you can take a look at the major change in her. There's one moment too I'll point out that's
that was amazing, and I like that idea about the hair and its length and it's the way she wears it. I grew up with this. I cannot remember the edition because I know there were a lot of different renditions of the story Anne of Green Gables.
Oh,
I would read the books as a kid, but I also watched the film. And I think in the second or third installment, there's this very domineering matronly character who sits in she's wheelchair bound, so to speak. But the way she wears her hair and how she has kind of that domineering effect on strangers and her own daughter alike.
Oh, okay. I don't think I ever watched those, but I think I remember the way you were describing it too. There was something like that in Pollyanna too, I think.
Oh, Pollyanna. Oh, yeah.
One of those Haley Mills Disney things was good.
Why? I know a lot about Pollyanna. She actually didn't let her hair Aunt Polly, who was also the domineering figure.
Yeah.
She didn't let her hair down until she was alone, private in her room after
That's right.
Her old love mentioned how beautiful she looked with her hair down.
Gotcha. So the tension here with the champagne and the key, using both of those, the champagne's dwindling, and he's looking for the right moment to slip down there. Talk about, well, we'll see. We'll talk about it when it gets there. Actually, it's I don't know. It's like watching it for the first time, it was fine. Again, this is one of those examples of where you're watching the movie and it's almost uncomfortable because so many things can go wrong, and Hitchcock knows how to needle it into you, as much as possible. Now she's arranged to go meet him down here. And this is the basement of the big structure, the big, patriarchal house, where she's able to find ways in.
Now, see, what she should have done is had that door unlocked ahead of time so he can just come in, do what he needed to do, and then, she wouldn't be compromised.
True, but she only had the key for a very limited amount of time between right before the party, stealing it, and then greeting the guests. But yeah, you're right. That would have been ideal.
Nice close up.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, how is she going to get it back on his keyring?
We do see that later.
Yeah.
I've never seen this movie before, so it's like,
But But you're right. You're asking all the right questions that you should be thinking, as you're going through, and that adds to the tension.
Yeah. And we'll see how much of an impact it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
No, you see that happening. But the shock too, when it happens, it's not liquid everywhere. And that's the.
Oh, now I don't care.
Yeah, Mr. Matchstick, I agree. This is some good suspense. Absolutely. The Hitchcock cinematic universe, and Hitchcock is Stan Lee. Now that's an interesting thought. Linking the Hitchcock movies as a shared universe.
It's like, I know what's it going to do? Just kind of push it underneath or something,
Mm-hmm.
He is.
And the champagne starts to dwindle, of course. So that she's dumping out another bottle that they can pour that in and replace it with to try and look like, no one was there. Look how unflappable Devlin is, too. I mean, she's like, what if he comes down? What if he comes down? He's like, well, that will be unpleasant. He's just like completely, unaffected. And again, that's his facade, where she puts up the facade of the bad girl. His facade is, I don't care anyway, but of course he does.
It's very pragmatic. It's like, well, this has to be done. If he shows up now, we're screwed. But if I focus, we might be able to fix this.
And in terms of the romance, though, now here, this is another scene where the emotion is just so overwhelming. Mm-hmm. When Sebastian is coming down the steps, he's seen them, and he says, "Kiss me." And you put herself in her shoes. She's finally getting what she wants, which is to him show emotion to her. But she's got the doubt: is it real emotion, or is he just doing that? Plus the uncomfortable consequences of what she's going to have to deal with Sebastian here in just a second. I mean, I think she plays it well. You just see that the gasping and the body just, right there. That's just like, and him looking at her too, the cracks in the wall. And then again, you can't help but to feel for Sebastian in that moment.
I know, yeah.
So he carried
all this emotional discomfort for covering up their own operation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that kind of thing in fiction where
I like that line that he just said. Yeah. I knew her before you. I loved her before you. I just wasn't as lucky as you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Story of my life.
For him.
Yeah. Poor Al.
But from a professional standpoint, great cover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I said, so a lie so close to the truth that it works.
And what were you saying, Prof, about what you liked in the fiction?
I like this kind of thing in fiction where there's a extravagant aspect to it. So like in here, they're really trying to do some espionage and trying to cover up the fact that they're spies, but they would be acting the exact same way there if they were truly just meeting for a tryst in the basement of her husband's house. It's the same kind of emotion there, and you can draw on that, and it's great for visual stories like this because the actors can draw on the emotion. Maybe they don't know what it's like to to be caught in a international spy ring, but they can't imagine what it's like, in human emotions, in human relationships and stuff like that. So I like linking the extravagant or the extraordinary to the ordinary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And we'll see this in a few scenes, but I kind of like Sebastian's reaction when he not confronts his mom directly to her, but needs guidance because it seems to me that the tryst is way is better. I would say is way better than when he discovers that he's married to an American agent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'd prefer that.
Yeah,
that he could handle. Mm-hmm. And he's got the great test now. He's he's kind of biding his time to see the way he's noticed that his key is missing, but he can't say for sure anything. So he's going to wait until that moment. We'll find out. That look.
And see, this is another story that takes place at a time when the story could take place, because if this was a more modern setting, any good spy would have copied the key and put it back immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
But she's not trained as a spy. She just happens to get roped in because of her life situation,
True.
So he leaves the keys there on the table.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, every time I see a clock, especially of that, finesse and beauty, I think of a knell tolling,
Mm-hmm.
or the death knell tolls.
Oh yeah. Judgment coming some way or another. Yeah. Gotta love those Ricky and Lucy beds too.
Well, back then you couldn't show two people in the same bed.
I know.
Are they really referred to as that? Because that's how I knew about.
That's how I always heard them referred to. I don't know if that's literal.
And there it is.
Do you know the first? Yeah, it's back. So now he knows. Do you know the first TV couple to be shown in the same bed?
Laura and Dick Van Dyke, the Petries.
No, they had two separate beds.
I thought it was Florence
did.
Henderson and
Yeah, it was the
Oh,
Brady's.
that's
Wasn't
right.
it?
Brady's. Yeah.
Actually, it was the Flintstones.
Nice.
Oh,
I don't ever remember seeing their bed at all.
Well, it was like it wasn't a major constant thing, but that was like the technical first
Okay.
occurrence is what I've heard.
You're right, because you didn't say like live action or anything.
Yeah. Trick question.
And now he's piecing it together. He looks at the
Okay,
sink.
why would the sink still be wet after all this time?
I wonder if it's not wet as much as if it being a stain.
I was thinking the same thing. It's hard to tell when it's black and white.
On a wine stain, I guess, maybe. So now I guess the label's different.
But yeah.
And look at how
the wrong year. Yeah.
Mhm.
wrong year, wrong amount. And Hitchcock walks us through all of this
Yep.
without a single line of dialogue. Just the
The climbing music, especially with the higher strings,
yeah.
with the tremolo. You got to have the string tremolo for dramatic discovery.
High tension, yeah.
The little details, things
Mhm.
that you wouldn't have noticed if you weren't looking for them.
And the kinds of things that only a jealous spouse will do the extra mile to find out, right?
He's like, oh, this is worse than my wife having a fling with another man.
Mhm.
Because this means his own demise
That was
of
convenient.
the slip up. Now, actually, I
Yep.
want to talk about the scene. When he's walking up the stairs, the music is very particular. It's like a march. It's a march like music, kind of almost like a dirge.
Mhm.
Very specifically a kind of a 2 or 4 fill.
Yeah. And we got those God's eye shots or bird's eye views Hitchcock likes to use whenever a character is sort of under a judgment or under some sort of, and that was, so it wasn't gratuitous us seeing Emil's death, it was setting up the consequences and possible consequences for them here, so it was a double multitasking scene. Now, for me, the real switch with her is when she reaches for her cigarette.
Yeah.
That's when she's like flat up, straight up scary.
I was thinking, my first thought that came to mind when she was reaching for a cigarette, I was like, you don't even hydrate. Like, you don't even get water.
Yeah.
Food. You just reach for a cigarette.
It's like this, matron of the house becomes Ma Barker all of a sudden. It's like, whoa.
And it's a new revelation, because she was suspecting that his new bride was untrustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's worse than that.
That shot too of Sebastian just from his forehead downcast and looking up, with the realization.
With the creased brow.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
That is scary.
One hand. Oh man.
And she's so cold about what to do too. He wants to kind of act out emotionally, and she's gonna she's going to be very Admiral Thrawn about it.
Yeah.
See how I did that? Work that in? No, nobody. Okay,
and on
fine.
Thursday, we can talk more about this movie.
Wow, Troy, beat it to death. Seriously.
I actually chose to ignore it.
You chose to ignore it. Al, you might want to, I think your mic has slipped down a little bit. We're getting a lot of,
I'm too busy drinking my onion flavored Kool-Aid.
I was just about to say you're a better person than I, Sound Engraver, and now I can't.
Look at her like talking with the cigarette hanging out of her mouth too. It's just this like, whoa, where have you been hiding that side of you?
And you feel his pain too. It's like, man, the woman I love, man. Yeah, I love this woman, and she's.
And it's not just a betrayal, but a betrayal, to the point of never did love you. It wasn't like she loved you and then she had a dalliance,
Right.
So now here's the thing. It's like she must be able to move around freely. She's already done what she needed to do. She doesn't need to do anything else.
But if they let on, then his cohorts will kill him for being the weak link. So that's why they need to slowly get rid of her, and they're going to poison her, basically.
And she still has to put up the act that everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's that knowledge gap. She doesn't know that they know.
Yeah.
Like a little cigar hole.
That is how you drink coffee. Black.
Black with the saucer.
I do love those little cups, though. Those little cups are cute.
Demi-toss.
Yeah.
So you can't have lots of sugar and vanilla flavoring and caramel on top?
No.
It's coffee, not ice cream.
Yeah. That's what's called obligated coffee, when you're obligated to put.
I love the way you said that. You're like, no, idiot, no.
I speak for the truth and what's natural.
Amen.
If you want your frappuccinos, that's fine. I'm not gonna.
But let's not call it coffee.
Talk about feeling uncomfortable, where we're seeing the slow, gradual poison, take a slow, gradual effect on her body.
Deterioration, yeah.
And I just want to say up front, I did kind of like Murder My Sweet. I did have a hyperventilation moment with her.
So the camera reaction, like showing her perspective, that stuff, or seeing her effects?
It was more when they were dragging her to her bed.
Oh, yeah.
And she started hyperventilating and freaking out. And I was like, and my legs went numb.
Oh, no.
I was just like, oh, no, here it comes.
Yeah. And
if we remember from Vertigo, where we were talking about the camera effects of that Vertigo effect and stuff, and how he wanted to use it, I believe, in this film.
Oh.
And I'm thinking that would be where it would have come in, is that when they were, when she's
probably.
Yeah.
Now she just finds out that Devlin is asked for a transfer. Hasn't told her anything about it, but she's going to meet him here, and yeah, the again, it's the tragedy of it is it's very uncomfortable to see her deteriorating, like you said. But because Hitchcock put in this groundwork of us being so uncomfortable seeing this thing happen to her, it makes the realization of it all the more horrific when she finally realizes, because we know how long it's been going on, right. And how it's just like, oh my gosh, the horror of it.
And actually, that's another thing that I really like that he's done, and that can be effective in film, is the pain and the terror of her realizing that she's been poisoned. I mean, I asked myself, how would I react if I discovered I was being poisoned?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's terrifying.
You don't discover it to the point where you're too powerless to escape on your own power.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How do you know you're not?
Now, the tragedy of it here again is that she's he assumes, oh, you're just drunk. And she's like, well, if that's all you think of me, then sure, I am. And it's just like, oh, would you stop playing games with each other and just tell each other how you feel?
Exactly.
The truth is right there, But it's yeah, and he won't mention to her that he's going away either, So showing her that he doesn't, in her mind, that's like he doesn't think enough of her to tell her that, In his mind, of course, later he's requested the transfer because he felt for her and it was too much for him seeing her together with Sebastian.
Which makes the last scene so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And that is straight out of opera. When the tenor comes back.
Oh, I bet, yeah. And her hair's back down in that natural way too, as it was when they were on the plane.
Oh yeah.
She's kind of done playing games,
Aww.
And I know, gives him back the scarf, which was like the symbol of him taking care of her.
And you see that pain too.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to. Still won't crumble.
Now I don't want to spoil any of this drama, but I do wonder about his character and his perspective, because in a real life situation, I can't imagine he would suspect that she was in love with Sebastian, that she was just doing her duty.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's so much that he thinks she's in love with him as it is that he thinks she's just one man after the other, and he was just one man in her line of men.
Thank you for saying that. That would clarify it.
But I mean, so much is left to speculation. You're right, though, and I think it's good that it's left to speculation. Because it makes us all the more involved in trying to figure out, what's going on.
I still had black coffee this morning. This scene didn't scare me out of.
Any flavored roast, at least, or just straight up?
No, my favorite's dark roast. Although I was obliged to buy medium roast today.
I don't even know the difference. I'm that much of a coffee ignorant.
Well, when you're always drinking it with sugar and stuff, of course, you can't tell the difference.
Think of medium roast pairing with citrus flavors, and dark roast pairing with sweet, salty, and chocolate flavors.
Okay. I do like Troy and Nanette. You guys said you were rewatching Dark Shadows now on Amazon Prime, and I always thought it was so funny how they would always go into the restaurant and get a coffee and a hamburger. That flavor combo, really?
Oh, absolutely.
I love the cup and how that cup is in the foreground.
Yeah.
Because
what a great shot.
It's the elephant in the room, right? It's the most important thing in the room that no one sees, and those who do know about it aren't talking about it. And it's the little.
I'm sorry. Can you clarify this gentleman's role in the story?
He's the doctor. He's one of the conspirators, but he happens to be a doctor. And I don't know exactly what his role is with the uranium, but he's one of their conspirators who happens to be a doctor, and he doesn't know she's being poisoned, of course, because they don't want his conspirators to know that she's an agent. So he's clearly evincing, concern about her health and stuff.
Okay. And then he reaches for it, and they both react.
Yeah. And that's how she knows. But before that happens, too, he starts talking about the mountains, and they cut him off really quickly. So that tells her where the uranium's coming from, because that's the one last little link in the puzzle that she was supposed to find out.
And
but
she
look at
just
the terror.
realizes.
Oh, the terror in her face, yeah.
Yeah.
And then looking back at them and the mother.
Evil.
Oh, and him just not even able to make eye contact, Mommy's taking care of it.
This is so well executed. She did such a great job.
Yeah.
And then they become silhouettes, just dark shadows.
Mm-hmm. Again, that alternating between her perspective and seeing the effect on her eyes and whatnot.
Mama just became a weeping angel.
Pretty much, right?
Don't blink. Don't blink.
Yeah, I got that reference. Had a little Captain America moment. And just their shadows on the door, too. They're right behind her. but she sees they're like she can't get away. They're before her, behind her. She realizes how helpless she is at this point.
Yeah. And the music does a really good job by making everything hazy and just, chromatically so colorful.
You just start seeing the beads of sweat.
Mm-hmm.
And so the brass, they're just being so abrasive with their tone, and then the very violent tremolos of the strings.
Yeah, it really walks you through the emotions of it. Yeah.
Now, the smart thing, I'm no conspirator, but the smart thing they should have done is just let him take in the poison as well.
Oh.
If you want to get away with it, I'm not saying you do that kind of thing, but
yeah, but then of course that I think it has to be taken over a certain amount of time, and then he's as doctor might figure out what was making her sick.
Yeah.
And then ask the question, why are you poisoning your wife? Oh, because she's an American agent. So many little threads, but you're right.
Yeah. This is where I started freaking out.
Oh no.
She's trying not to get to the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to call for help. And
for me, the tension really, watching it the first time comes when Devlin actually is there, and we've got that extreme close up again, and you don't know who might else be in the room or who might be in their way or something later.
Yeah.
Joseph, disconnect the telephone. She must not be disturbed. Oh, that's just.
And he waits out the whole week.
Mm-hmm. Takes him a whole week, but at least this is where he finally comes around, And look at, I hate, the mother I'm just needle pointing. Oh, man.
It's wicked. It's such a wicked looking scene.
Yeah. And how seemingly heartless, kind of uninterested the FBI guy is. I'm just lay on the bed eating, whatever,
You have to have a character like that, though, in a story.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who is a little loose, too, even if
detached.
Detached, yeah. That's good.
But of course, Devlin gets it now. Man, I so have to pee, but it's just like it's about to get really good.
You should have time to write, Prof.
I did. I was going to be a man and wait it out, but that's not.
You have. You can't hold your bladder for 10 minutes.
I don't have the largest bladder to begin with, and I drink copious amounts of fluid.
Okay, go now. Go now.
Okay, I'm going. I'll be back.
I've got to send him one of these jars.
Listen,
I'm sorry.
Dude, I already went to the bathroom without anybody knowing about it. So it's like,
well, it's a little harder when you're the one hosting.
Yeah.
When we don't hear him complaining about talking about another movie every 5 minutes, we know he's gone.
It doesn't take that long to pee.
So I'd like to believe that Joseph's a good guy and he doesn't know that he's serving a bad guy. Can we say that?
I think so too. I think he knows. I think he knows there's something going on,
right?
But he's smart enough to not
keep his mouth shut.
know what it is.
I will take the more middle of the road opinion and say he's a good servant. He may or may not know what's going on around him, but it's none of his business, so he keeps it to himself.
Yep.
Wouldn't you be somewhat suspect or somewhat suspicious if you saw 5 German men hanging out all the time, especially in those years?
You may be, but again, not your place to even question or think about it.
Right.
And we don't want to drink the 1934. It's a bit on the dry side.
Very.
Even though Sebastian's a bad guy, I feel for him as far as being afraid of these people.
Well, you can say that, but he's the one who put himself in that position.
Yeah.
That one guy there. I mean, that's Nazi guy all over the place.
I'm literally drying my hands on my pants.
Ew.
Well, no, I washed them, and I just didn't take the time to dry them because I wanted to get back.
But you probably have feral cat hair all over him.
No, I didn't pet the cat. It won't let me pet the cat. Yeah, it's We haven't reached that stage in our relationship. It's still being very distant, very coy.
Now the music with him climbing up the stairs is just more of that buildup.
Yeah.
And I just love that he just takes the initiative. He doesn't wait anymore. He's gonna just go in.
Yeah, he can't. His feelings have finally kind of gotten the better of him. And juxtapose this with the time that she was in bed with a hangover.
Yeah.
Now she's in bed suffering for the noble things she's done.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And look at her eyes when she realizes it's him.
Oh, such a sweet, tender moment.
I know.
Not the adjective I would have used. I was going to say tragic.
Of course,
Tragic.
I'm looking at it going, what did you do to me?
but very tender, though.
You put me in this situation.
And I love this again. The close. You know, we haven't seen them like Soundgraver pointed out earlier. We haven't seen them like this since that moment in the
Right.
apartment, and they're finally truly together again. But the tension of it is, yeah, but are they going to be able to stay together? Is she going to survive? Are they going to get out of there? What's going on? And you know, the camera just wants to hug the two of them there.
The way his eyes are in this scene is he's looking so soft and just so grief-stricken with with what's happened.
And I look at her hand and I'm thinking, that guy has that much money and he's got that pitiful little ring on her finger. Come on. Opulent, man.
Go big or go home.
This is not New Jersey, Al. They're trying to be a little classy.
Maybe it was her choice.
And he said, I was getting out because I love you. I couldn't bear seeing you and him together. And she loves it. She keeps saying that to me. Keeps saying it to me, you know?
Well, it's reviving her too.
Mm-hmm.
From being bedridden.
Yeah. Because in addition to the poison, they've also given her sleeping pills, as she says. You're right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was a fat-headed guy full of pain. It is such a with all the tragedy, it is such a sweet moment.
And he still he assumes that role again as the caretaker.
Yeah. Put your robe, put your coat.
I've never been poisoned. I've been sick in bed for 3 days straight, so I can't even imagine getting out of bed.
Yeah.
And let alone out of a dangerous situation.
The nerves, yeah. Is she nauseated? What kind of? You don't even know, you know.
She's just so weak right now.
But yeah, but imagine laying there for 5 days knowing you're going to die.
Yeah.
And then you see him.
And that's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just straight out of La Traviata. Only she's succumbed to a kind of a cancer sickness, so it was a natural illness or a disease. But the tenor comes in at the very last scene. But I am confused about this very last scene coming up as well. To me, it seemed a little cut short, and I'm sure that was intentional.
Do you mean the fact that we don't see the consequences after the camera fades?
Right. Like, well, for Sebastian, we kind of know.
Yeah.
When they're driving. Well, spoiler, sorry. It's coming. When they're driving off, you don't know what they're succumbed to.
Yeah. You don't know if she's going to survive the poison or not. Yeah. You're just left to assume. Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting here going, how are you going to get her out of there?
Right? That's what you're thinking at this point. And you're like, oh my gosh, But it's ingenious the way it works, and you got to hats off to Devlin here for this machination he comes up with.
So this is actually a very, to me, a very masculine moment. He's ready to take him down by force if he's thwarted.
Yeah.
But this is also the death knell for Sebastian, he has that crutch that will stop him, that will allow them to go free.
And Devlin has even got the mother at his mercy, because yes, of course, let him take her. Otherwise, our ruse will be up, and they'll know, and they'll exact consequences on us. Not just him, but the mother too. Help him, Alex.
I hate to kill the moment, but I love Mr. Matchstick's comment. Joseph is the mastermind of the operation, and the others are just figureheads for the cloning Hitler as an Aztec vampire operation.
That's Ryan Johnson's sequel.
Yeah.
Subverting expectations.
It's called The Last Nazi.
They saved Hitler's brain.
He's so resolute in keeping quiet, even at the pressing of his mother. And then we finally see the fear as he's being dismantled.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got, I think, a mink coat around her.
Yeah, if you're gonna leave that place, at least take something with you, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, there's the story. Mr. Devlin heard her scream. That's why he ran up. So it all perfectly plausible. But you can see the tenuous situation the co-conspirators are about to see through it. And this is him being the man and carrying, admitting his feelings and doing the manly thing about them, which is protecting and taking care of, not running away to protect himself or his reputation or whatever.
Yeah. But then he's like,
nope.
You.
Not.
I feel, I'm sorry. I know he's a bad guy, but I feel bad.
Yeah, you're supposed to, I think. Yeah.
It's like, you're watching. Take me with you.
But there should always be that little voice inside of you saying he's only here because of his own decisions in life.
Yeah, he was trying to poison her to death. And I love her little smile when she finally realizes he's taking care of me. He loves me. He's taking care of me. He believes in me. I mean, that's just perfect. So you're right. We don't see, the two of them ride off into a sunset together, all happy, healthy, into a honeymoon. But I think it's safe to assume that. But you're right. Yeah, we don't know. And then all the last scene is the closing door of that, exactly where the court was, just except for the columns, the door closed. She's escaped. She's overcome that structure in her life. She's female hero's journey in perfection.
See, I guess I've always looked at this a little different, or maybe I'm just a pessimist or whatever. I just assumed that, both of them, he goes, the door closes, he's dead. She drives off with him and she's dead.
Yeah, you are a pessimist.
Because we watched that last Rambo movie where the daughter dies after she gets rescued.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
Spoilers.
So you're just watching all the wrong things, Troy.
I guess
that's that's what you were likening it to, sweetie.
Well, no, because I saw this many, many, many years ago, and I've just always had that.
I thought you were romantic, Troy. That's not the romantic view to take on the film.
No, wait a minute. It's still very romantic. I mean, in fact, it's tragically romantic, right? He shows up, he's there, and maybe she dies in his arms or something like that. Still very romantic. It's just tragic.
Where I thought you were going with it, hon, was, the door closes, he's dead. And so is Mama. They drive off together, she lives.
But
that's not what you said. So
yeah, sorry. And actually, I think Mama's getting away with it somehow. I mean, she's just brutal. She's probably gonna let him kill the son, and then Joseph takes out the other guys.
The scene though, when she's being taken out to the car, and the gentleman asked her something, and I heard her say, "No, I'll wait here," but she looks scared.
Yeah, she's terrified. Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh crap, I'm in trouble."
I refuse to accept that another Ingrid Bergman and Claude Rains film ends with not being happily ever after for the couple.
That's right. Well. That's right. It's
shine.
It's like the book. If you ever read the book Princess Bride, not the movie, but the book, in the end of it, there's all these levels of narration. There's the guy reading it to his son, but it's by somebody else, and he was told it by his own father back in the day or whatever. And by the end of it, there are like 3 or 4 different endings, and you can choose whatever one based on how you are. And the one who told it to him was a romantic, so they rode off together and lived happily ever after. The author was a cruel realist, so the horse threw a shoe, and then Prince Humperdinck caught them in the end, and whatever, and it just depends on your. It says more about you which ending you choose.
And
Buttercup lost her looks and stuff like that.
Tragedy can still have hope, with La Traviata. She perishes in the end, but not before she reconciles with her lover, and he's holding her in his arms, and she actually has this almost euphoric sensation before a brief moment of terrible pain, and then she collapses, and then the lover grieves, but he had disowned her in the middle of the opera, under this kind of knowledge gap where people aren't being direct with one another because of the conflict.
And
so
see, that's how I was interpreting this.
That's true, because they have reconciled, even if she does end up perishing. We don't.
And that's why I said that them coming together in the bedroom there, I saw that as tragic. It's sweet. It's beautiful. You could even say hopeful, because I mean, what are you hoping for? Are you hoping for them to be happy and happily ever after? I'd say it's happy just that they reconcile. He gets her out of there, and they have a brief moment. That's happy enough.
I would like a little more happily ever after in my life. Thank you very much.
Listen, Prof,
Thank you.
I go with Prof on that.
5 weeks of noir, man.
It's true. That does bring up a good segue then as to what's going on next week, next Tuesday, because I have 3 choices, and I'd like to get you guys' thoughts on it here, and then we'll see what the chat wants too. But there are 2 more noir films that I would like to cover at some point, preferably before we say goodbye to Tuesday Night's Noir and move on to screwball comedies. But we'll see what people like. But Out of the Past with Robert Mitchum and Jane Greer is just so flippin' phenomenal. And then there's Kiss Me Deadly. Kiss Me Deadly is actually public domain and available on YouTube. Everybody can watch in a different window while we talk over it or whatever. Out of the Past is another film we just have to obtain. But those are 2. Screwball comedies, I do want to jump into those too. Probably start with Bringing Up Baby, the Howard Hawks classic. But if we wanted a break, if people are maybe it's a little bit of a time drain having to rewatch all these movies beforehand and stuff like that, I could just take next Tuesday and read my own noir story, and we could maybe watch a short or something, or do something fun, just kind of impromptu.
That's interesting too.
Yeah.
So, a lot of options. I mean, we can do them all eventually. So but just what of you guys here, what would you lean towards for next Tuesday?
I think the reading before the screwball comedy would be excellent.
Doing the reading instead?
I was getting psyched about Kiss Me Deadly.
I was thinking Kiss Me Deadly too, but the alternate would be
Kiss Me Well.
Cloris Leachman. As you may, unless you've ever seen this before, not remember her.
Al's not done singing.
Yeah.
Kiss Me Deadly.
He's not singing. That's not singing.
All right, so we're seeing kind of even split among the panel and even the chat. They're saying Prof Story and
it's singing disc deconstruction.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Sure.
All right, well, here's the thing: we will do both. But is there a preference as to what you'd rather do first?
I would rather. Well, if no one else minds, I don't mind doing this noir stint for a few more runs.
I know.
If you
exactly
it with the reading before screwball comedy.
Okay, so we'll continue with at least these 2 movies, if not more. But we'll just make sure I do the reading before whenever we do transition to screwball comedy.
I dig it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
It's like a syllabus.
Okay, yeah. So in that case, any votes? Kiss Me Deadly is the one. Would you rather do that instead of Out of the Past next week, and we'll do Out of the Past later?
That's the one you saw as public domain, right? Kiss Me Deadly?
Yeah. In fact, you can find an amazingly high quality copy of it straight up on YouTube. I'll drop the link in the Facebook group and whatnot.
Yeah,
Hey, I think that might be a good option. I mean,
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
so.
All right. So next week, Kiss Me Deadly.
This
Mickey
is
Spillane.
1955. Ralph Meeker,
Yep. Excellent film.
directed by Robert Aldrich.
And it's a later film noir because it's in the 50s, and a later hard-boiled detective too. Mickey Spillane. So we're not dealing with Sam Spade or Philip Marlowe, but a little bit later in the next decade, but still a lot of the same tropes. And but we'll see what's new about it with the new time period.
Mike Hammer.
Yes, Mickey Spillane's the author though of the novels.
Right.
Yeah, Mike Hammer's the detective. So all right, well that'll be next Tuesday then. But of course, this Thursday we've got chapters 5 through 8 of Scoundrels that we'll do on my channel. Friday, something of the Fan Man, possibly. Saturday, what's going on, folks?
Don't know yet.
Saturday, we're over on Netter's Network for the Lake House.
Saturday, Netter's Network at the Lake House, which apparently references Notorious.
It does. It's not a huge. I mean, it's not like you have to have seen Notorious before you see the Lake House. It's just a little subtle thing that gives it a little bit of flavor when you see it on the TV, and some minor themes that I'll talk about. Much more of a, well, I don't want to say too much about it. Also equally romantic, threads of the tragic through it.
Very true.
Good stuff.
and I'll finally have something on my channel.
Yes.
Sounds good. Yeah, so there's that.
Well,
And
you
then,
got that's right.
go ahead, Al. You've cleared the floor. Say it.
No, I was thinking, no, didn't she have the Trinity movie? But that's right.
No, we couldn't get it running on hers in time.
Right,
so
because I
that's
had to
why
wait 24 hours before my
Yeah.
stream or something was set up. And
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
we're set now, and so at least I think we are. We'll try. Obviously, if it doesn't work last minute, I'll throw it up on my. Doesn't matter. I mean, the link will go out. You guys will all get it. So, but
Yeah. And then of course, that's this Sunday. So that's not a We Watch Sunday. The next Sunday will be, as Mr. Matchstick says, Cowboy Bebop. Very cool. First 6 episodes. Nice. Good one. Good choice. But Monday, Sound Engraver is doing her coffee break. And I hear that she might have a somewhat interesting guest this time around. I'm not quite sure yet.
Yeah,
but,
I have to phone him saying I have to cancel. It's not going to work out at all.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm just kidding. Yes, I think yes.
Oh, thank God! I hear he's a major pain in the.
He's a professor, so you have those characteristics.
Yeah. That academic ego.
Right. Yeah. So what? Are you interrupting me?
Yep, he is. He just wants to talk again, so he's just going to start talking.
I went excuse me. I went
So the last couple of weeks, I've done this pretty extensive overview on 20th century Western music, the bit of an overview on the history of it and elements of deconstruction. So I thought it'd be a lot of fun to bring the prof on board this coming Monday on the 6th, probably closer to 10. We'll just shoot for 10. And maybe Prof, you can talk about some examples of deconstruction and maybe your experience with the academia and also with, of course, what's happening in comics. And hopefully we can find some parallels there.
Sounds good. I'm sure we will. That sounds good. So nice. Casey Scott said he finally made a video for his channel too. Cool. Everybody go subscribe to Casey Scott and check that. That's cool. That's what I like to see. I like to see that. That's good, Casey Scott. Cool. You're an admin, Casey Scott. Drop your link in the chat so I can easily click on something and not have to multitask while I'm talking.
Yeah, it used to be that you could just right click on the person in the stream and see what
I know.
their channel was.
I know.
Heaven forbid YouTube should keep features that actually are good, you know.
So yeah, Sound Engraver Monday, and then Tuesday back here for Kiss Me Deadly. I'll drop links in the Facebook group. You can do it YouTube search and find it as well. But yeah, I'll do that. So that sounds fun. Cool. Good plan. Anything else you guys would like to say before we call it a night?
Nope.
Watch what you drink.
Black coffee included.
Yeah.
All right. right. Well, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for coming and watching the movie. Thanks to my panel for sharing your wonderful thoughts and insights. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the stories you love.
Bye.
Bye.